afternoon. How many of you have taken the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge? Well, I want to thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. Did you know that to date the ALS Association has raised over $125 million? Thank you. Thank you. In 2011, my 27-year-old son Pete was in a baseball game. He was hit by a pitch in the wrist. His wrist immediately went limp. It wasn't broken, but it never came back. 6 months later, he called my husband and I, and he said, "Mom, Dad, I finally found a doctor who has a diagnosis for the wrist." So we went and we sat down, and 4 other doctors walked in, and then the head neurologist, he sat down, and he looked at Pete and he said, "Well, Pete, it's not broken, it's not sprained, it's not nerve damage, it's not an infection, and it's not Lyme's disease." And then he looked at my beautiful 27-year-old son and he said, "Pete, I don't know how to tell a 27-year-old this, but you have ALS." ALS, I thought. My neighbor's 80-year-old father has ALS. So I looked at my husband and he looked at me and we looked at the doctor and we said, "ALS, okay. What's the treatment? What's the cure? Let's go. Let's do this." And he just kind of gave us this look and he said, "Mr. and Mrs. Frate, I'm incredibly sorry, but there is no treatment and there is no cure. You see, we were the worst culprits. We did not even understand that it had been 75 years since Lou Gehrig and nothing had been done in progress against ALS." So we went home, and my daughter Jen and my son Andrew, they flew home, and Pete went to pick up his then girlfriend Julie from college, and 6 hours after the diagnosis, we're just sitting around a table eating dinner and having small talk, but it doesn't seem right. And finally Pete, our leader, he stood up and he said, "There will be no wallowing, people. We're not looking back, we're only looking forward. What an amazing opportunity we have to change the world. I'm going to change the face of this unacceptable situation of ALS. I'm going to move the needle and get in front of philanthropists like Bill Gates." And that was it. We were given our directive. Within a week, everyone that Pete had inspired in his life were gathering around him and creating Team Frate Train. 6 months after the diagnosis, Pete was given an award at a research summit for advocacy. He stood up and he gave the most eloquent speech, and at the end of the speech there was a panel, and on the panel there were biochemists and pharmaceutical executives and clinicians, and they were asking him questions and they were talking to him, and most of the content was going right over my head. I mean, I avoided every science class I could in high school. But they're asking questions and I'm watching their body language and it just doesn't seem right. There's just a real unfamiliarity between it all. They're saying, I do this, I do that. And finally, at the end of the discussion, they had question and answers, and boom, my hand shot right up and I got right up to the microphone and I said, "Thank you. Thank you so very much for working on ALS. But I do have to say that I'm listening to what you have to say and I'm watching your body language and it just doesn't seem right. Where's the flip chart with the follow-through and the action items and the accountability? What are you going to do when you leave this room?" And then I looked behind me and I realized there were 200 pairs of eyes just staring at me. You see, I had talked about the elephant in the room. From then on, my mission had begun. So for the next 2 years, we had our highs and our lows, and I watched my son being taken away from me little by little every day. 2 years ago, Pete Frates was hitting home runs on baseball fields. Today, he is completely paralyzed. He can no longer hold his head up. He is confined to a motorized wheelchair. He can't eat. He is a feeding tube. He can't speak. He talks through eye gaze technology and a speech-generating device. And we're watching his lungs because eventually his diaphragm is going to give out and the decision will have to be made whether to put him on a ventilator or not. You see, ALS robs the human of the physical parts, but the brain stays intact. July 4th, 2014. The 75th annual year of Lou Gehrig's inspirational speech comes, and MLB.com asked Pete to write an article in the Bleacher Report, and he wrote the entire article using eye gaze technology. 20 days later, the first bucket of ice fell. On July 27th, 2014, Pete's roommate in New York filmed himself saying, "I'm taking the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge," and he picked up a bucket of ice and he poured it over his head. And then he said, "And I'm nominating," and he sent it up to Boston, Within a week, friends, co-workers, teammates, they were all taking the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, and it was about day 4 when I get a text from Uncle Dave that says, "Nancy, what the hell is going on? You see, Uncle Dave created Pete's website, and he gets a notification every time it is visited, and his phone was blowing up." So we sat down and we realized money was coming in. How amazing! So we knew that awareness would lead to funding. We just didn't know it would only take a couple of days. Week 1, Boston media. Week 2, national media. Week 3, celebrities. Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, Bill Gates. Week 4, global. BBC, Irish Radio, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany. How amazing. And you know the ALS patients, you know what their favorite ones were? All of them. Because here was this misunderstood and underfunded rare disease, and they were just watching people saying it over and over again, ALS, ALS. Okay, so we know it's much more than people just pouring buckets of ice over their heads. So today, I want to leave you with these things. Every day, you have to wake up and be positive and proactive. That is what my son has taught us. I actually had to ditch support groups because they were saying things like, yeah, spraying my lawn with chemicals, that totally gave me ALS. And I was like, no, I really don't think that's how it works. But I just had to get away from all the negativity. The second thing is that the person in the middle has to have the mental toughness. Pete still goes to baseball games and he sits in the dugout with his teammates and he hangs his gravity feed bag right on the fence because he wants people to see the reality of it, and he wants them to see that he is never ever going to give up. And okay, I know I'm almost out of time, but I really have to leave you with these things, the gifts that my son has given me. I have the honor of being Pete Frate's mother for his entire life. Pete Frate's is a leader. He throws out kindness, and all that kindness is reciprocated right back to him. Pete Frate's walks this earth every day, and he knows why he's here. My son has given me my mission in life. I'm going to save him. And if it doesn't happen in time for him, I'm going to make damn sure that no other mother has to go through what I'm going through. And the final gift that my son has given me as an exclamation point to the month of August 2014. Do you remember that girlfriend that he went to pick up on the night of his diagnosis? She's now his wife, and Pete and Julie have given me my beautiful granddaughter, Lucy Fitzgerald Frates. Lucy Fitzgerald Frates came 2 weeks early on August 31st as an exclamation point. So today, I want to leave you with these things. A quote that Pete has given us all. Be passionate. Be genuine. Be hardworking, but don't forget to be great. Thank you.